Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. Tonight, my family will call me a failure, right in the middle of my younger brother's wedding. They don't know, in just 1 week, that multi-billion-dollar defense project they're chasing will be mine. But here, right now, I'm just the oldest son, exiled to table 17. I'm in the restroom of the Grand Elysium Hotel. Jazz, glasses clinking, laughter spilling in through the door. All of it reminding me there's a world out there I was never part of. My fingers find the cold West Point ring in my pocket, a path I chose, and the reason they decided I'd walked away. I hear my father's voice from just months ago. One day, you'll get tired of playing soldier. When that day comes, call me. I look in the mirror. Black suit, straight tie, face like stone, everything perfect, except the eyes. The eyes of a man about to walk into a room where every glance says, "You're not enough." Out there, my father is laughing with guests. My mother's busy with relatives. My brother, shining in the center of it all. And me, I'm in the farthest corner, where the music dies under the clatter of silverware. I breathe in. Memories flash. The promotion ceremony no one came to. The victory email left unanswered. The NATO medal photo that vanished into silence. I'm not here to brag. I'm here because I promised my mother. But I know, in a few days, when I walk into their boardroom, everything will change. My hand closes around the door handle, cold metal against my skin, sharper than any thought. Outside, my father's laughter, full of pride. Never for me. I open the door, step into the light. Faces I've known all my life, but feel like strangers. And in my head, only one line repeats. Keep smiling. Until I walk into that boardroom. I'm William Bradley, 37. On paper, I'm the eldest son of James Bradley, CEO of Nexora Dynamics, a tech giant in defense, healthcare, finance. My mother Helen, graceful, poised, always behind my father in every major deal. My brother Brian, just like him, smart, sharp, knows how to hold the whole room in his hand. From the outside, we're a perfect family. But if a family portrait has 4 people, my corner's been in the shadows for a long time. 10 years ago, I broke the perfect path they'd drawn for me. Instead of a top seat at Nexora, I chose West Point. The day I left, my father stood at the door, silent. My mother stood behind him, her hand gripping her sleeve, eyes wet, but no tears. I knew she wanted to hug me, but maybe she didn't dare. From that day, the distance grew. They didn't ask where I was, or what I did, just knew I was still in the military. At home, every trace of me vanished. No photos, no keepsakes, only a wooden chair I once used for breakfast, pushed into a corner, covered in dust. 10 years. I lived in cold barracks, in rooms packed with cables and blinking screens, protecting things no one saw. Networks, data, critical information. No one in my family knew, and maybe they didn't want to. Tonight, I'm back. Not in uniform, but in a black suit, blending into the crowd. The hostess smiles. "Sir, your seat is table 17. It's by the wall, nowhere near the stage." I thank her, but it feels like someone just pointed at an old scar. Around me, distant relatives, family friends, stocks, real estate, European vacations. Every so often, a glance my way. Polite, but distant, and I can almost hear it. Will hasn't changed. On stage, Brian is radiant beside his bride, Emily. My father at his side, glass raised, voice confident. Laughter, applause, filling the whole hall. I smile too, until I notice a man at another table. Plain clothes, but I know him. We serve together. He gives me a small nod, as if to say, "I know who you really are." I turn away. Not everyone here needs to know. Not yet. Table 17 is under a yellowed chandelier, its dim light only reaching half my face. From here to the stage is a long stretch. Red carpet, bright lights, flashing cameras. At the center, Brian and Emily, glowing like the heart of their own universe. The sound is different here. Up front, laughter and applause are sharp. At my table, the music is buried under silverware and shallow talk. A woman at the next table leans into her friend, just loud enough for me to hear. "He's still in the army. Shame. So smart, too." They both shake their heads, their eyes on me, like I'm some rare thing. left to gather dust. I give a polite smile, look down at my glass, and remember a night long ago when I was 10, in my father's company ballroom. He lifted me on his shoulders, told the crowd, "This is Will, my son. One day, he'll run this company." That night, I thought I'd always be his pride. Now, on stage, my father's voice carries across the room. Brian, my youngest, an outstanding man, taking Nexora further than ever. He pauses. His eyes find me, hold for a moment, then slide away, like I'm just another guest. With a half smile he adds, "And Will, my eldest, is here tonight too. Still serving in the military, still loves that low-paying job." A ripple of laughter, a few curious glances. I keep my thin smile, nod in return. But inside, part of me wants to stand and tell them everything. About the sleepless nights, the times I kept the nation's systems from collapsing. The other part tells me to stay silent. My father turns back to Brian, to the stage lights, to the applause, and I sit at the edge of it all, where the light only reaches the cold West Point ring in my palm. I breathe deep. 1 week from now, I'll be in a different room, in a seat they never saw coming. After the toast, the program shifted to the first dance. The lights in the hall dimmed, leaving a single glow trailing Brian and Emily across the floor. Soft music mixed with laughter. But to me, it sounded like it was coming from a locked room, far away. I rose from table 17, excused myself, and walked down the hall to the balcony. Outside, cool air, quiet. I breathed deep, my hand brushing the West Point ring in my jacket pocket. The only thing here that reminded me I once belonged to a world where people were judged by action, not by title. The glass door slid open. "Will." Brian stepped out, loosening his tie, tension still in his eyes from the endless congratulations. "Congrats," I said. "Emily's wonderful." "Thanks." He stood beside me, silent for a moment, then lowered his voice. "There are a few people here tonight. From the government. Just partners. If they ask about your work, keep it vague. I want to keep things simple." I smirked. "I'm at table 17. Doubt anyone will ask." Brian gave a thin smile. "Yeah, hope so." But he didn't sound like he believed it. The door opened again. A well-dressed man stepped out. "Robert Callahan, chairman of the board," Brian said quickly. Robert shook my hand, firm, but not too firm. His eyes stayed on me a beat too long, as if searching for something beneath the polite surface. "I've heard a lot about you, from a few old friends." He paused just long enough. "Hope we'll have a chance to talk later." When Robert went back inside, Brian glanced at me. "He likes you." He was about to say more when his phone buzzed. He pulled out a folder, flipped through pages, then dropped them. I bent to pick them up. The top page read, "Helios, Strategic Allocation, APAC Support." Line 4 in bold, "APAC, Singapore, 47. 2M Advance, Supplemental Justification." Before I could ask, Brian snatched it back, forcing a crooked smile. "Thanks." "Internal docs." I didn't say a word, but the number stuck. So did the words advance and supplemental justification. Too familiar in my world, and always a warning sign. Brian left. A message lit up my phone. "Internal channel. Cole John. Received Helios cost summary. APAC section vague. Recommend silence until confirmed." Signs of cost padding through offshore entities. Back in the hall, I kept my breathing steady. At the VIP table, Robert was speaking with my father. Robert leaned in, said something, and both men glanced my way. My father's eyes caught mine, froze for half a second, then turned away. A silver-haired man walked up to my table. Harold Green, advisor to the Federal Contractors Committee. "Friend of James?" He sat without waiting. "Heard you're military." "Technical work." "I do technical work," I said simply. "Good." Big projects lately are getting heavy scrutiny, especially foreign allocations. Easy to misunderstand. I set my fork down. Misunderstanding happens when files aren't clear. He studied me, then stood. "You should think about coming back to the company. That's where the future is." Only after he walked away did I realize I'd been holding my breath. I left the table, moving fast toward the service hallway behind the stage. The music faded, replaced by the hum of ventilation fans and the metallic scent of equipment. Security stopped me. I smiled, holding up a small box I'd grabbed from a catering tray. "Brother of the groom. Dropping this off?" He hesitated, then waved me through. The tech room was bright and sterile. Brian stood with two staff, looking at a laptop. He flinched when he saw me. "What is it, Will?" "I'm busy. That file from earlier, APAC, Singapore, 47.2 million. Why the supplemental justification?" Brian shut the laptop. "Internal matter. Don't do this. Not tonight. You know when a file is vague, people read it the worst way." He exhaled. "There are things you don't want to know." The door swung open. My father stood there. Robert Callahan, just behind him. The neon light cut across my father's face, hard, cold. His eyes dropped to the file in my hand, then to Brian. "What's going on here?" He stepped inside, each stride measuring not just the room, but the 10 years between us. Robert followed, arms crossed, gaze calm but cutting. "Why are you here?" My father's voice was steady, each word nailed to the floor. "I asked Brian about some numbers." I kept my eyes on his. "Tonight is your brother's wedding," he said, never looking away. "Not an audit." Brian stammered, "Dad, I was just—" "Quiet." My father cut him off. Then to me, "Or is this you trying to prove something again? Like the time you walked out on the company for your ideals?" He hit the word ideals like pressing on an old wound. My hand clenched. 10 years, and he still knew exactly how to cut me down. He stepped closer, eyes flicking to the file. "Give it to me." I set it on the table. Robert opened it, stopped at the line. APAC, Singapore, 47. 2M. "These numbers," he said, "only mean something in the bigger picture. Not for reading, in a back room." "I'm not sneaking," I said flatly. "I saw something unusual, and I asked." Robert held my gaze. Unusual is a dangerous word without the full story. And sometimes, the one chasing the truth is the first to pay for it. My father turned to Brian. "Take this to records. Lock it up." Brian hugged the file to his chest. As he passed me, his eyes flickered, part gratitude, part plea to stop. His hand brushed his pocket, like checking something was still there. The door shut, leaving just the three of us. My father's voice was lower now, but sharper. "You left Nexora. Stay out. What you're doing could bring this whole family down." I said nothing. But in my head, one thought was clear. Once you've seen it, you can't pretend you're blind. Robert left first, sandalwood trailing in the air. My father paused at the door, giving me one last look. Not anger. A warning. The kind only people who've been through power's battlefield can read. I stepped into the hallway. White light. Cold air. The smell of fresh ink still on my hands. Back in the hall, dessert was being served. Laughter rolled on, like nothing had happened. From the VIP table, Brian looked at me, then dropped his eyes the moment I held his gaze. He gave a small nod, just enough to say, "There's more. I don't know yet." The MC called everyone outside for fireworks. I followed the crowd. The night air was damp. People looked up as bursts of light bloomed in the sky. I looked down. In my pocket, Harold Green's business card, cold to the touch, one corner biting into my palm. My phone buzzed. "Cole, John. New intel. APAC tied to a parallel project. High probability of defense contract bidding. Meet as soon as you leave. Priority 1. I looked up. The fireworks were gone. Only smoke and the smell of sulfur remained. Someone clapped me on the back, congratulating me, but their voice was drowned out by a single thought. Maybe tonight, I'm not just a guest. Maybe I'm already on their radar. The fireworks had barely faded, but the oohs and ahs still lingered over the lawn. I slipped out of the crowd, my heart still pounding to the rhythm of the explosions. But not because of the celebration. My phone buzzed again. A second message from Cole John. "There may be someone in the party directly involved. Say nothing here. We'll send meeting point." I slid the phone into my pocket, scanning the grounds. My father stood under the awning, talking with Robert. Emily laughed with a group of guests. No sign of Brian. From the bar, a waiter approached, holding a white envelope. "Someone asked me to give you this. Said it had to be now." Inside, just a folded slip of paper. "Trust no one. Not even the one standing next to you." The handwriting jolted a memory. Slanted, decisive. Exactly like Brian's in high school. My fingers clenched the paper. If it was from him, why send it? And why now? I folded it, slid it into my inner pocket. From that moment on, I could feel it there, like a cold stone pressed to my chest. I took the dim hallway along the side of the ballroom. At the far end, a security guard leaned against the wall. "Mr. Bradley, where you headed? Need to make a call." Reception's terrible inside. I gave a small smile, lifted my phone. He shrugged. Let me pass. But I caught the faint scrape of his shoe. Turning to follow, the rear gate opened to an empty courtyard. A black SUV waited by the curb, headlights off, interior light glowing faintly. The window slid down. Cole John leaned out. Get in. I climbed into the back. The door shut. The sounds of the wedding cut off, replaced by the hum of the vents and the low purr of the engine. Leather and stale tobacco in the air. John didn't waste time. You shouldn't have touched the Helios file here. If they know, you're a target. I think I became one the second Robert Callahan looked at me like he could read my entire file, I said, my hand brushing the note in my pocket. John checked the rearview mirror. Helios isn't just a civilian contract. The APAC section ties to an integrated military data system. Money routed through Singapore means someone's buying a backdoor in Nexora. His mouth tightened. I can't say, but you need to stay, observe. If you get the chance, pull the APAC subcontract. Tonight's the only window. After the wedding, they'll clean house. He handed me something small, USB-sized, cold in my palm. Plug it into any of their machines. 30 seconds. I turned it over. If my father caught me, would he protect me or hand me over? You know the risk, John said quietly. He'll choose the side that wins. The SUV stopped at the rear gate. Cold night air hit my face as I stepped out. Back inside, the light and music felt like another world. Brian stood alone at the bar, turning a glass in his hand. When I reached him, he slid another glass toward me. Drink, he said, voice low. And if anyone asks about APAC, you know nothing. For the good of the family. I stared at the drink. Smell of whiskey sharp, his palm damp with sweat. Brian, that note. Was it from you? A blink. What note? I didn't answer. If you know something that could burn all of us, you should tell me now. His shoulders stiffened. He repeated, almost word for word. There are things you don't want to know. Then he melted into the crowd, leaving me with one hand on my pocket, where the note weighed heavier than the glass. The crowd pressed toward the stage. The MC called for the wedding video, eyes shifting to the big screen. I knew. This was the moment. I slipped into the side hall leading to the temporary offices. The door was ajar. Inside, 2 staff checked guest lists. A laptop sat open on a wooden desk in the corner. My fingers brushed the warning note. Trust no one, not even the one standing next to you. Each word heavier now, slowing my step. But I still went in. Need something, sir? A young woman asked. Looking for the restroom? Must have taken a wrong turn, I said, easy smile. She pointed to the back door. I nodded, moving toward a wall map, right beside the laptop. Heart pounding, the beat in my ears like a countdown clock. My left hand shielded the motion. My right slid the USB into the port. Its light began to flash, fast. 1, 2, sweat down my neck, breath shallow. If my father walked in now, 28, 29, the light slowed, then died. I pulled the USB, dropped it in my pocket, just as the woman turned back. Still lost. Found it, I said, walking out. Only once the door closed did I notice. My hand clenched so tight, my nails had left marks. The dark hall led to a side foyer. Saw footsteps behind me. Mr. Bradley. I turned. Robert Callahan stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes sharp as glass. You seem curious about a lot of things. Curiosity's in the nature of tech work. He stepped closer. But when tech meddles in finance, it tends to end up somewhere it doesn't want to. Like the last time you were in Afghanistan? I froze. Only a handful of old teammates knew about that. Robert tilted his head, voice dropping. Enjoy the wedding. Don't make yourself the headline at the next one. He walked away, sandalwood in his wake, a cold line down my spine. Back in the hall, the wedding video showed Brian and Emily in college. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I watched Emily. She sat beside my father, leaning in as he whispered something. A faint smile. Her eyes flicked to me for half a second. The look of someone holding a secret, waiting to choose a side. My phone buzzed. Hidden number. Time short. Basement garage, C2. I slipped out the side door, down the iron stairs. Damp air. The music above was a distant echo. Fluorescent lights flickered, my shadow stretching and shrinking with each pulse. Footsteps. I stopped. A metallic click, like a door closing. At C2, a silver sedan hugged the wall. The passenger door opened. Brian sat inside, half his face lit by the weak light. "Not much time," he said. "They know what you're doing." "Since when? Before you even got the USB? Who do you think gave them the tip?" My hand tightened on the note. "You're saying—" "I had no choice," Brian cut in, eyes darting to the stairwell. "If you want to stay alive, you leave. Now." Another set of footsteps. Closer. Before I could speak, the garage lights blinked off for a beat, then came back on. The basement lights flickered. Unnatural. Footsteps on the metal stairs above. Heavy, deliberate. Like someone wanted me to hear. "Get in," Brian hissed, yanking the passenger door wide. I slid in. The door slammed. He fired up the engine, pulling out of C2. "We can't leave through here," he said quickly, eyes scanning the mirrors. "They've blocked every exit. We need to get somewhere safe first." "And where's that?" I asked, trying to catch his eyes. "You don't get it, Will. I signed a subcontract for Helios. Robert's orders. I thought it was just shipping components." A cold line crept down my spine. "But it wasn't. It's a defense package. Money routed under the table through Singapore. I have a copy of the contract. In the trunk." He glanced at me, voice low. "If you take it, you'll be target number 1. And they won't let you go." An engine roared behind us. In the mirror, white beams cutting across concrete. The black SUV, closing in fast. Brian clenched his jaw, floored it. The sedan shuddered through a narrow gap, side mirror scraping a pillar, sparks snapping in the dark. The SUV stayed glued to us, bumper nearly kissing ours. Tires screamed as Brian swung into C4. The SUV followed, its frame tilting, lights strobing against damp concrete. Ahead, a shadow stretched across the floor. Slow, steady steps. When the overhead light flared, my father's face came into view. "Brake," I yelled. Rubber shrieked, the stench of burnt tire filling the air. The SUV behind skidded to a stop, blocking any way back. My father walked forward, each step deliberate. Out of the car. "Dad," Brian started, but one look from him shut it down. "Both of you." I stepped out. From the SUV, Robert Callahan emerged, his smile thin. "You've met Call John, haven't you?" I froze. Robert's mouth curved. "He used to think he could trust you." "Mistake." My father's voice was low, cold. "Give it to me, Will." The words hit like déjà vu. 12 years old, caught with a watch that wasn't mine. He'd stood at my bedroom door, palm out, saying those same 2 words. That day, I handed it over. It took years to shake off the look in his eyes. Now that look was back. Only this time, what he wanted could burn the whole family down. Robert held out his hand, voice like steel. "Do the right thing, Bradley." In my pocket, the folded note pressed into my chest. "Trust no one." The air in the basement felt thick. The SUV idled behind, a low growl under my feet. I looked from my father, to Robert, to Brian. His eyes flickered, torn between 2 sides. "If I give it to you," I said slowly, "does this end?" Robert's reply was a blade. "It never ends. But you'll still have choices, until we don't need you anymore." My father took a step closer, his voice heavier. "Will, you don't know what you're holding. And you do." I met his eyes. "You knew from the start. Helios, the shadow deal, the money through Singapore." He paused, just half a beat. "There are things that kill you faster, if you know them." I saw Brian's fist clench, then loosen. He drew a breath, staring at me as if trying to say something he couldn't. The veins in his wrist stood out as he reached into his jacket. Robert's head tilted, a warning in his tone. "Brian." Suddenly, Brian threw something, a glint of metal in the flickering light. "Will." "Catch?" Instinct took over. My hand closed around it. A USB, the one he said was in the trunk. Robert lunged. So did my father, but not to stop Robert. Toward me, I spun and bolted for the metal stairs. Robert's shout echoed through the garage. Footsteps pounded after me, close enough that I heard the rail vibrate under another hand. I gripped the banister, heart hammering. Heat of breath on my neck made every step feel heavier. At the bottom, a steel door. The handle was ice cold under my palm. I shoved. Locked. The steps behind me closed in. I turned. My father stood there, breathing steady, deep. "Will," he said, voice low, almost pleading. "Give it to me. You don't understand. If you keep it, you'll die. And if I hand it over—" Silence. The same look from years ago, when I was 12. That time, I gave in. Tonight, I wasn't sure. A metallic click from the lock at my back. The door swung open. White light spilled in. "Cole, John, I've been on you since you left the ballroom," he said quickly. "No time. Move." I slipped past him. Before the door closed, I glanced back. My father still stood on the steps, not moving, not calling after me. The light flickered over his face, half in shadow, half lit. And in his eyes, something I couldn't name in time. Sadness. And maybe pride. Then the door shut. The SUV's growl, the footsteps, gone, like they'd never been. In my hand, the USB grew warm, its pulse matching my own. The night wind hit my face, cold and dry. Cole John said nothing, just motioned me through a side entrance into the hotel's service wing. The music from the wedding was faint now, blending with the hum of industrial air conditioners. We cut through a narrow corridor under dim yellow lights and stepped into a small tech room. He shut the door, locked it. "Give it to me." He held out his hand. I looked at the USB, then at him. "What will you do with it?" "Keep it out of Robert's hands," John said, flat. I've heard Robert say the same, about someone else. I gripped the USB tighter. "And you want me to trust you, when all night I've been told, trust no one." John was silent for a beat. "If you don't trust me, at least trust this. I want to stay alive. And that USB is the only thing keeping both of us that way." I took half a step back. "How long have you been on me tonight?" "Since you walked into the video control hall?" "Robert's not the only one watching you." I gave a dry laugh. "So I'm just another piece on your board." "No," John said, steady. "You're the only one who can change the board." Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. "Hidden number. Brian taken. See that? 3 minutes." I looked up. "They have Brian?" John's eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "If you go back, you lose everything. If you leave, you still have a shot." "I'm not leaving my brother." I unlatched the door and stepped out. John swore under his breath, but followed. We moved through a side passage, down into the garage again. The air here felt thicker. The burnt smell from earlier still clung to the concrete. At C2, 2 men had Brian pinned against a pillar. One of them, Robert. When he saw me, his mouth curled. "Faster than I thought, Bradley." Brian's eyes were wide. "Will, don't—" I took a step forward. "Let him go." Robert studied me, like a trapped animal. "Trade for the USB." Behind me, John murmured, "Don't do it." I didn't look back. "You know what's worse than me keeping it?" Robert tilted his head. "What?" I slipped the USB into my jacket's inner pocket and zipped it. "Me disappearing before you touch it." His face shifted. He gestured. The other man shoved Brian to his knees. The crack of bone on concrete echoed. Brian grunted, cut short when the man's hand dug into his shoulder. Robert bent until his eyes were level with mine. His breath smelled of cold mint and blood. "I'm counting to 3. If you don't hand it over, he'll snap your brother's arm like a pencil." The man lifted Brian's arm. The joints popped. I clenched my jaw. "Will, don't," Brian's voice shook. And suddenly, winter, years ago. Brian was 8, pushed into an ice-covered pond. The freezing water stabbing my skin as I dove in. His small hand gripping mine like it was the last thing in the world. That feeling was back now. Cold. Right through to my chest. Robert held out his hand, mock patient. 1. My heart pounded. 2. I locked eyes with Brian. He shook his head. But I already knew my answer. 3. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the USB. Robert's eyes lit with victory, but instead of handing it to him, I threw it hard to Brian's feet. "Run." Brian caught it, spun, and bolted for the emergency exit. Robert shouted. The other man moved to follow, but John had his gun out, voice like ice. "Take 1 step." Robert didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on me. "You've picked your side. You'll die with it." From somewhere above, sirens. Faint at first, closer now. I realized John must have hit the emergency call the moment we walked in. Robert's face hardened. "This isn't over." He backed into the shadows, but before vanishing, tossed one last line over his shoulder. "The USB you've got is just a copy." I froze. The basement cold seeped into my bones. A copy, or a mind game. If he was telling the truth, where was the original? And why had Brian given me a fake? John stepped closer. "Come on!" "We find Brian before they do." I moved, my mind spinning. Even with the sirens bouncing off the concrete, Robert's voice still scraped in my head, like metal on metal. If he was right, this whole thing was a game I never knew the rules to. We slipped out through the hotel's side door, melting into the dark. The wail of police sirens still echoed, bouncing off damp concrete walls. But now it sounded farther away. John moved fast. I followed. Neither of us spoke until we turned into a narrow alley, lit only by a flickering yellow lamp. He stopped, faced me. You need to disappear for a few days. No credit cards, no phone, no friends, and most of all, no one can know you're carrying that. My hand tightened around the USB in my jacket, almost by reflex. And when I come back, what do you plan to do with it? He didn't answer right away. Only when a gust of wind cut through did he speak. It's not about what I want. When this game ends, you won't be the same man you are now. I gave a short laugh. You talk like you've seen the future. He shrugged, his face half in shadow. Not the future. I've just seen too many men like you. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. Don't keep it in the same place as your heart. I was about to ask what he meant, but John was already stepping back, his figure fading into the mist. Alone in the alley, I pulled my hand from my pocket. The USB sat in my palm, cold as ice. Robert had called it a copy. If he was right, did Brian give me a fake to protect me? Or because he didn't trust me? Brian's image flashed, on his knees in the garage, blurring into my father's face on the stairs. When I was 12, he'd once told me, never trust anyone completely, not even your father. I'd thought he was joking. Turns out, he was warning me about nights like this. I wanted to call Brian. My thumb hovered over his name in my contacts, but I stopped. I didn't know if I'd hear his voice or someone else's. I drew a long breath, slipped the USB back into my inner pocket, zipped it shut. Whether it was real or fake, I'd keep it. If the original existed, I'd find it, before Robert did. I stepped out of the alley. The city was still loud, as if there'd been no chase, no arrests, no family breaking apart. But inside me, everything had shifted. From the moment that basement door closed, I'd stepped into a new game. No one had told me the rules. But I knew one thing. I wouldn't step back. And if I wanted to save Brian, I'd have to become someone even I wouldn't recognize.